Welcome to The Stir, Gazelle Media's new podcast featuring conversations with people you're likely to see in the pages of Gazelle magazine. They inspire us, they fascinate us, they bring us joy by virtue of who they are and what they do. I'm Trish Muyco-Tobin. So speaking of bringing us joy, today's guest is joy personified. She's the recipient of a 2019 Visionary Award for her artistic contributions. And just a couple months ago, she was honored with a 2019 Esperanza Award, or Hope Award, by the Hispanic Leaders Group of Greater St. Louis. Please welcome Señora Carmen Dence. Carmen, hola.
Thank you. Hola, hola, amiga. Good morning.
Good morning to you, and it's great to have you here with us today. So, first things first, you are a native of Barranquilla, Colombia. Did I say that correctly?
That is correct.
Yes.
Barranquilla, Colombia.
Correct. Okay. So, tell me a little bit about where that is. It's along the coast of the country, isn't it?
It is correct. It is the largest city in the northern coastline of Colombia, and it lies in between a city that most people have heard of, Cartagena, because of the touristic influence and so on, and the city of Santa Marta. So Barranquilla is kind of in the middle of this triangle of very special cities in Colombia.
Yes. So I know that one of the things that the town is known for is the Carnival.
That is correct. And it is one jewel that we Barranquilleros have to show the world and to lead the perception of a great Colombia. So our carnival, it is a very special event.
So we were just talking earlier, one of the other things that's really well known about Colombia is its coffee.
That's correct.
Yes.
Here we are sharing some of a special cup.
So you've been married to your husband, Joseph, for 43 years. Is that correct?
That is correct.
But the coffee thing, there was a little stumble in the relationship. And tell me a little bit about what happened there and how he now has been able to appreciate a good cup of coffee.
Right. It is ironic that here I am from the country of Colombia, whose early economy was relying on coffee for all the value that coffee has. And I married somebody from Toledo, Ohio, who didn't really like coffee. At least that's what he expressed to me. So I was a little bit concerned. Is this marriage going to even last the life of a marriage or what? So I very artistically I say, well, if we reach our 25th wedding anniversary, my sweetheart, would you have a cup of coffee? And that was probably in our second or third year. And he said, yes. And let it go like that. Well, time passed, and the 25th year came to be, and here I am presenting him with a great cup of coffee, café con leche, and the man said, did I promise that? And I said, you sure did. Well, you have the memory of an elephant. I don't remember, but if I said it, I should go through it.
Sure.
And at that time in his life, he had the very first cup of coffee from Colombia, café con leche.
Uh-huh.
And ever since, he just regret not having wasted so much time before he has his first cup, because the coffee was absolutely wonderful.
So you knew what you were talking about all this time.
Yes, and I probably should have said in our 10th wedding anniversary, but
Maybe even 5th.
Yes, exactly. But it's kind of a funny story, really.
It is.
Now he demands his cup of coffee.
Oh boy, you've created a monster now.
Start the day and to finish the day, and that's just,
wonderful, and that's a great story. Love is patient. How is that?
Exactly. Love is patient. Love is sharing.
There
and
you go.
The more
I love
you
that.
share, the more that love will stand time.
So at the beginning of the program, we mentioned that it's been a winning year for you. The Visionary Awards, for instance, it's one of those really prestigious awards. You're honored for your lifetime in the arts. And I would say that Carmen Dence, your public persona is that you're known to be this grateful, beautiful dancer. You're the founder of Grupo Atlántico, which is celebrating its 25th year next year, is that correct?
That is correct.
So you founded this very, very popular St. Louis dance troupe. But I know that from just the two of us talking, when you were growing up in Colombia and when you were old enough to go to school, you had this other fascination. You were really drawn to chemistry.
That was really a big draw. You see, when you grew up in a city that is so alive and next to you, you just absorb like in a sponge all what life is bringing. In this case was the folk arts, the dance, the music, getting together, dancing in the street. That was there. And then there is another calling, I would say, that you feel as you advance in your studies, as you get to evaluate what is going to be how you want to spend your life.
Sure.
And it maybe the influence of some teacher was especially important. The school where I went to, everything contributed to me leading toward science, and so it was. I just fell in love with my very first chemistry experiments and what discoveries one can do and so on, and became fascinated with the subject to the point that really became my lifelong occupation.
I was going to say, it really was such an impression on you that's what you decided to go to school for. And you came to the United States to go to college to Florida State University. Is that correct? And it was on a scholarship?
It was in a scholarship.
So when you came to the United States, it was not only a personal accomplishment for you to be able to continue your studies academically, but also you were explaining to me before that it was also, it felt like an accomplishment for your entire family as well, that you were able to do this.
Exactly. At the age that I am, by the time that I came to do graduate work in organic chemistry at Florida State University, I was really the first one in the family, my very extended family, that was able to even go to high school, then to college back home to earn the degree in pharmaceutical sciences, and then come to a foreign country to do graduate work. All of those were first for the family, and they serve as an incentive for all the young people that came after me.
Because you were the eldest child in your family.
I am the eldest
of six siblings?
Six.
Yes.
Three boys and 3 girls we are.
Okay.
And so they all felt, a guidance, and of course for my father and mother, a strong commitment to all of us. And even though they didn't have the education, they had the perseverance, they had the love, they have the push to drive us to achieve whatever we wanted to do. So I guess I am a product of that set of parents, which, by the way, is probably pattern after so many of all our immigrants' parents.
Sure,
they
and
all
I was going to
want
say
the best for the kids.
Exactly, and that's great to hear. And I want to touch upon that a little bit later. The idea of being the eldest and setting an example and being a role model. But I wanted to go back to Florida State University because the Carmen Dence story. There's another part of that Carmen Dence story. Tell me a little bit about how you met Joseph there.
I met Joseph. He was a young assistant professor at the Department of Chemistry. And there was absolutely no other relationship except TA. I was his TA and helping grades, courses that he was teaching.
No attraction there at the very first meeting?
It was just kind of, yes, yeah. In fact, he once asked me, tell me your full name, and I rattled. As you probably know, Hispanics love names and names and names. So
middle names, second names, third names, yes.
Names. So it was like 6, 7 names, and he looked at me and I said, why don't you just call yourself C. Smith? And I said, that would be
oh my
shortly.
goodness.
So, well, life brings you surprises. 7 years later, we met again, and at that time, then we did fall in love, and shortly after that, we got married. So the C. Smith became C. Dence.
How lovely. Okay, so you yada over the really cool details of this love story, as they would say on Seinfeld. So you reconnected in Ohio when you were working at a lab there. Is that correct? When he was in Ohio, because he is from Ohio.
He is from Toledo,
But then right around that time, he got a job in Iran, of all places. And yada. A few months later, you were married in Iran. Okay, so tell me about that wedding.
He left United States because he was given a very nice job at Abadan Institute of Technology in the city of Abadan, Iran. Shortly after that, he sent me a ticket. I say, I need you, I love you, come. And I just closed shop in
I love those
Columbus,
words.
Ohio.
He really said those words. I need you, I love you. I mean, those are the words you want to hear, right?
Correct. Every day from the time he left to the time that I joined him, I will receive a bunch of flowers in my office. They will come. I don't know how he did this because, but there they are, flowers. I didn't know what to do with so many flowers, so I said, well, I better go and see this man. Otherwise, my whole company here is just going to be like a flower shop. And so that happened. I did buy a round trip ticket. I joined him in the city of Abadan, which by itself was really like a new world. It was a new world for me. I never traveled that far. And the culture, the colors, the smells, the food, everything is just different.
So you were married, but the wedding was very intriguing to me.
The Iranian government had no idea how to get together two people who were not Iranian and both from different countries. So
different
I'm from
religions.
Colombia, he's from United States. How do we get married in the whole structure of Iran? So they keep throwing things like you need this, you need that. I had to go to my consulate. He has to go to his U.S. consulate and swear that we didn't have previous marriage, that there was not a standing wife or husband anywhere.
Sounds like they threw every obstacle at you.
Yeah, so we just keep going with paperwork until it finally was clear. And it was very informal. The officer, his wife, Joe and I, and two gardeners from the uh, uh, place that were close to the church. They were the witnesses, so it was just like 7 people or so. But it was very, very special.
And
he brought me a flower, a yellow flower. He put it in my lapel. He had one in his lapel, and that was the nature of the whole scene.
And the dress,
The dress was some a pantsuit that I have already made myself, and he has a very common, just a coat and standard outfit.
Right.
The whole affair, Trish, was, including dinner and including everything, was less than $150.
That's the way to get married,
So to me, it's almost like a badge to say, how much you spend in a wedding has nothing to do with how long the wedding is going to be.
Isn't that
how
true?
Long the love is going to last. Nothing.
My goodness. And all those details, the fact that it seemed like it was almost impossible for you to get married because they were demanding all these things, and the fact that you wore an outfit that you made yourself and you had to gather the witnesses.
It was so informal. And then, but our hearts were bursting with happiness because here finally we can say, yes, we got married, and of all places, Abadan, Iran. So then we had to do a second ceremony with the Greek Orthodox Church. And that, why? Because supposedly the Greek Orthodox Church in Iran was holding the official books for the Iranian government. And that's where things got even more colorful, because after all of this signing, we realized that he had committed himself to give me a dowry, to validate, who he was by way of saying, yes, there is so many heads of sheep or so much coins and representing money that I am committed to give you, and the whole booklet of that wedding is something so precious and so special to us, because all I knew is that I was signing, he was signing, I was signing, but we had no idea what we were signing at all.
But again, that does not dictate how you're going to be in life, your marriage, and look at this, here we are now,
exactly.
And Joe is still around, and you're happy. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Yes.
So after Iran, you were there for a couple of years, if I'm correct. And then the Iranian Revolution came, and you had to leave the country. But the United States, I know, came to be because Joseph already had a working relationship, the United States and St. Louis,
yes.
I should add, because Joseph already had a working relationship with Washington University. And so when you came here, I know that you two pretty much lined up positions with the university in a fairly short time.
We just arrived in St. Louis with a very small suitcase and our useful future in front of us. So we both went to Washington University, applied for job. Within a week, we had both positions. I was engaged by the Department of Pharmacology, and he went back to internal medicine, Department of OBGY. St. Louis also was a big draw because Cardinals were here, and I knew about the team as AAA, AA are baseball are very common and very loved in the Caribbean.
I was pleasantly surprised to learn that about you, that was a main draw.
Yes, that was as a strong draw to see the Cardinals and to be in a city where a team with the widespread name as the Cardinals were in my life before. And so St. Louis became home for us. A year passed, and we encounter again, where do we go? Do we stay? Yes, we stayed, and up to this point, 38 years passed.
I was going to say, you sure did. You sure stayed. Because I was going to say, fast forward to, 37 or so years later, you retire as Associate Professor of Radiology from WashU. You weren't going anywhere, though, as you're still here. But my goodness, Carmen, in the middle of all this, you had time to start a dance troupe, Grupo Atlántico. And I can tell from its history and its essence and the way you talk about it, this is really more than just a vanity project for you.
Oh, absolutely. It is a soul giving project. I guess as immigrants, sometimes we value more what we left behind after we have left. Not that I didn't value all the cultural enrichment that I was getting, but you realize after you leave your own country how important and how special what you bring it is, not only to you, but to the place that you call home.
One thing that you just said really just touched me, the fact that Grupo Atlántico in a way is an extension of your experiences growing up in Colombia. And I completely agree, and it really touched me because it's what I'm experiencing as well. When you hear a song from your childhood, or when you are reminded of your favorite snack as a child, it really brings you back. And now that my parents are both gone, I really am a big believer in, getting even closer to my roots and making all that food that my mom used to make, because not only does it remind me of her, reminds me of growing up in Manila. And so you are saying the same thing about dance.
Exactly. In a nutshell, we are here because where they were before, how they raise us, and when I say they, I don't mean only parents, it's friends, it's the community, are the traditions that you don't even call them traditions yet. You are too young to understand ancestry or
just what you did.
It's just natural that comes to you, and it's the experience really of all of us immigrants, wherever we are, and from wherever we are. It is something that is strong, but it's very shareable. It's ours, but it's yours. And
that's why we connected when you were talking about
that. Exactly.
So let me then bring it back to the concept of your roots and family. You're the eldest of 6, and you and Joe don't have any children of your own, but you have this large extended family. Your siblings are pretty much all over the world, I believe in at least 3 countries, and nieces, nephews, and all of that. But in your family, when your mother passed, you kind of took on that mantle of being the family matriarch. And I could just tell that pleases you very much.
It is, yes. Both my parents are gone. My mother lived a very long life, 94 years plus few months. So she really was such a giving woman. You never saw her except with a smile in her face and kind words and words of hope and good future for everyone. My father passed away long before she did, and she just dedicated her life to all of us 6 kids, and consciously, yes, I said no kids for us. That was a common decision, but the children of my brothers and sisters are my kids. But I also had these kids that I love kids, and they may not even be kids anymore. But this is the people that are part of my artistic family. Anyone, I said to them that if you are with Grupo Atlántico, you are automatically here forever. And if you go away because of family, you get married, you have your own kids, come back. And that's exactly what is happening.
So, lastly, I wanted to ask you about balance. Because at the beginning of the show, I mentioned that you are probably your joy personified. You just exude joy, and you also exude this kind of calm and this contentment. It seems to me that you have pretty much accomplished what you'd like to have accomplished, and then some. I mean, all these awards left and right, my goodness. No. So I am looking at you probably in the same way a lot of even your longtime friends are looking at you. You were a professor at Washington University, and in the middle of all that, you begin this dance troupe, and you have family obligations, all these other things. How are you able to establish a sense of balance while all of this was going on, while you were creating, while you were establishing yourself academically? That's a lot to take on.
It wasn't that complicated, really. But why I say that? Because you learn what you need to learn, and then make the associations, and science. And the scientific mind says you have something that is basic here. You have to build from that foundation, go to the next step, challenge that foundation is needed, challenge your own point of view, and then see what really fit. So my approach to science, as it is my approach to life, is always have a question mark. Don't take for granted everything that is passed on to you because it's coming from X, Y, or Z. Try to really go to the roots of that something that you want to investigate, and bring that moment of conviction to what you want to do. When you do that, then you have done your homework, as we say. You had analyzed both sides, you have questioned both sides, and now you're in a position to really move forward or retract, because not everything in science should be considered just a step forward. When you retract, as you can do also in your own life, pause, breathe, and then question again. One thing that I have to say that had contributed a lot to my just wait and see is only to do yoga. I love yoga. I'm a yoga practitioner, and anytime that you bring that knowledge of relaxation, of breathing, of contentment inside of you, then anything else is going to be changeable. That is the nature of life, and you change as you advance, you change as you go back, but always with the idea that you are there first. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself, and then everyone else is part of that big family that you are also taking care of.
I love that. That is so wise and so you. So thank you so much, Amiga, for being here and for being with us. Thank you to Carmen Dence. This has been another edition of The Stir. Join us next time to see the next St. Louisan whose story will inspire you, fascinate you, and bring you joy.